joint media engagements of the ONS, Sierra Leone Police and RSLAF, of course, are ongoing on the proposed deployment of the ECOWAS standby mission in Sierra Leone. And the recent threats of demonstration as circulated on social media and the implications for national security development, among other things. And in the studios this morning to discuss these issues, among many other things that will come up, we've just been joined in the studios by Abdul Karim, who is the Director, Strategic Communications at the Office of National Security. We are similarly so expecting in the studios the ACP for Sierra Leone Police, who is Brahma Kamara, and he is also the head of media for the Sierra Leone Police. But good morning, Will, and it's always a pleasure having you in the studios.
Thank you very much. Good morning, viewers and listeners. The
aforementioned premise is one that seems very serious, but help the public understand these recent developments in the work of your organizations, together with other parties that we've earlier mentioned.
Yes, thank you very much. The security sector leadership, whether it's the police, the Office of National Security, or the Chief of Defense of the Republic of Sierra Leone Armed Forces, have made it their commitment to get the public along with whatever we are doing, because we think that it's a right for the public to know, and we give them information based on what they need to know. What we are doing here is to ensure that we keep the public fully informed about happenings within the security landscape, what we do, how we do it, and what it is that we expect of them. Because in this era of misinformation, spreading of fake news, it is but important that you give people the information that they need to know, so that they will be informed, and if they are genuine in analyzing or understanding what you tell them, they should also be able to cascade such information to other members of the public. So yes, over the past couple of weeks, we've been engaged in a joint security sector strategic communications outreach to inform the public about several happenings, i.e. the proposed deployments of an ECOWAS standby mission in Sierra Leone, the calls for demonstrations, not new, because this has been the trend for the past couple of years, 5 years down the line, or even 6 years, as you may think. And generally, the misuse of social media and the implications this has for national security. We call on members of the public to make conscious efforts to understand what they need to understand, and to also make objective analysis of the information they get, so that they do not fall for misinformation that people peddle, especially on social media. We always call on people to ensure that they corroborate information, they cross-check, so that they do not also contribute to the practice of spreading fake rumor. When you do so, you put society in a tensed mode, and much to the extent that it will give the impression that the country is not peaceful. Okay. But by our intelligence estimate and security analysis, we can confirm that Sierra Leone remains a relatively peaceful community, a relatively peaceful country, and we expect that this will be the case for the foreseeable future. We only continue to implore on members of the public to play their own part positively in ensuring that we maintain peace and stability, because this is good for national development, it's good for national cohesion.
Aside the planned demonstrations which you've just mentioned, I think one of the most topical issues the ECOWAS deployments, which is all over the place, and it has raised a lot of concerns from the public. But I think this seems not new, because I remember in November 27th, when the ECOWAS troop, arrived in Sierra Leone, the head of that mission at a particular time, RIOT, also made mention of a proposed plan which they presented to the president. Yes. But again, the question from the public is, are we in a situation wherein we cannot handle our security affairs? Is this the key situation that has placed us in a position wherein we're seeking for help from ECOWAS at this particular moment, to see a situation wherein they will strengthen our security sector?
So let us put this into context. I mean, we all are following events, whether it's in Sierra Leone, the sub-region, Africa, or even in the world. You and I know that for the past couple of years, as I mentioned earlier, Sierra Leone has been inundated with a lot of odd happenings, calls of violent demonstrations, attempted coups, subversive activities, and so many other issues that could unsettle any state. There is a difference between being relatively peaceful and threats to the existence of peace. In Sierra Leone, even though as a sector we've made all of the efforts to ensure that we keep the country peaceful, there have also been corresponding efforts from, well, ill-motivated groupings to ensure that they undercut all of the successes that have been made over the period. So, this happening in Sierra Leone, coupled up with other happenings in the sub-region, issues relating to permeating terrorism in the West African sub-region, frequency of coup d'etats, violent demonstrations, insecurity generally within African states, raised the concerns of heads of authorities of African states. And therefore, on the 4th of December 2023, they met in Abuja, which is the capital, the headquarters for the ECOWAS Commission, and deliberated on these issues extensively and reached a conclusion through a communique, an agreement signed to say, let us put a stop onto these happenings and let us now be proactive rather than being reactive, given the fact that these kinds of things have led to the actual overthrow of government in some parts of African countries and the implications that has for the security of those countries. Sierra Leone has, like I stated, been faced with all of these difficulties. It will be foolhardy for ECOWAS or UN or AU or Commonwealth to sit idly by and allow Sierra Leone relapse into another bout of conflict. Because all of the things that have happened over the period are red flags to state that if action is not taken, concrete action is not taken, the security system could be overwhelmed and things will happen and it might have ripple effect. Sierra Leone has gone through a brutal civil conflict where world organizations, leaders in country now and in the past have invested a lot of resources to first of all get peace, consolidate peace, and ensure that development aspirations are progressed. We have seen conscious efforts to thwart all of that. So ECOWAS pinpointed on Sierra Leone that because of all of these things, let us see that in addition to the efforts that are being made on the ground by security forces to go and actually support them physically so that those groupings or those individuals that are doing X, Y, or Z that have the tendency to undermine peace or to derail peace are not given the opportunity to do so. That's the reason that the decision was reached to.
Are you of the view that Sierra Leone is not peaceful as we speak?
I stated that relatively Sierra Leone is peaceful, and I also distinguish between being peaceful and threats to that existing peace. What we are facing are threats to the existing peace that we are enjoying. To either attempts for overthrow of governments, coup d'etats, either through subversive means, if you follow social media, a whole lot of innuendos, insinuations. And these kinds of innuendos have been the ones that led to events of August 8, 9, and 10, even to the extent that people actually physically came to overthrow government, leading to the events of November 26th. And several other happenings. I mean, we're all aware that there have been actual demonstrations that have gone violence, massacre, leading to the loss of lives, destruction of public and private property, disrupting the normal functioning of society. So these pointers are red flags that will tell us that even though you're making efforts to keep the country peaceful, there are other undercurrents that are working very seriously to ensure that they derail and put spanners into all of the gains that have been made.
Now, on human rights issues, when the conversation continues, we talk about the prohibition of citizens in country to exercise their rights to demonstrations and protests. And often the security sector comes back to say its concerns for security reasons. Now that we're having ECOWAS troops deployed in Sierra Leone, that's additional security. Does this mean now citizens can enjoy the right to protest?
There is no moratorium on protests or demonstrations. There is no ban on protest in
Equally
Sierra
so,
Leone.
we haven't seen permission granted by the IG for people to
So
protest.
there are thresholds. To seek clearance for demonstrations would mean you actually have asked for demonstration. Seeking permission to go into demonstrations does not include using social media to hurl invectives or even use threats against the state or against citizens, and then you say you have been denied the right to demonstrate. That is nowhere near a demonstration. There should be, in fact, a distinction between what is referred to as demonstrations and riotous conduct. If you look at the Public Order Act of 1965, Section 12 specifically speaks around issues of riotous conduct. If you jump onto the street and begin to do things that are out of the way, that are lawless and disorderly, what you are doing is no way near demonstration, and that is not protected by law. But the same act, Section 17, 1, 2, and 3 states that if you want to go into demonstration, even by that expression, it means demonstrations are recognized in Sierra Leone because Sierra Leone is a liberal democratic country.
But when the security sector is there expected to provide security, but when the security sector now throws it back to say, if you want to do a protest or demonstration, you want to organize it, you have to take responsibility for the security. Now throwing the work of the security back to the people who would want to put together a protest or demonstration, is that not, in other words, saying no demonstrations, no protests?
So that's not the spirit of the granting or asking people to take responsibility of the outcomes. It is actually saying that if I am taking responsibility of bringing in people onto the street to be engaged in this particular activity, I should be able to have conscientized that grouping to say we have to stay within the confines of the law. If you go into demonstration, police has the responsibility to provide security in terms of providing you the guide, providing the guardship, to ensure that if you have chosen, if you have agreed with the police leadership to use a particular routine, no other person comes to thwart that space. If your membership now begins to throw stones, begin to cause destruction around the vicinity, then you who organizes that demonstration takes responsibility. And this is not only unique to Sierra Leone. That's what happens all over the world. We call them civil disobedience. All of the leaders, whether it's the Mahatma Gandhi, whether it is the Martin Luther King, when they go into state demonstration, they take responsibility of the outcomes of those events. If they go well, you are home and dry. If things happen that are wrong, that have led to the destruction of public and private property, you will have to take responsibility. Otherwise, we will have a chaotic society where every other day, one group will come up and will do things that are going to completely disrupt law and order. When police says, when the law says that you should sit to the police so that you organize a protest, it is to ensure that you give police the opportunity to also sniff around to determine whether there are other groupings that might want to usurp your plans. If that's the case, then police will make preparation for that. We'll even give warnings that we know that it is this group that has been granted permission to do demonstration. Any other countermeasure will be met with stiff resistance. So I'm sure those people who enacted the laws around demonstrations or even public order have not done so during leisure time. They have taken time to study the nature of societies, the nature of human beings. If you just leave it loose like that, then you are going to have a whole lot of problems. In fact, you are going to have more problems than solutions, even in the quest to give people the right to demonstrate.
Where does the deployment of the ECOWAS mission in Sierra Leone, where does it position Sierra Leone in the African region, or even across,
So in the first place, it should be noted that it is not new to Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone is not the only country that is going to have an ECOWAS standby mission coming to be deployed here. Like I have stated, because of the persistency of a groupings or individuals, whether at home and abroad, to do everything just to create problems, just to ensure that they put the society into a tense kind of a mode, there is every reason for additional support to be given onto Sierra Leone, onto the government of Sierra Leone through the security sector. It is not in any way presenting Sierra Leone as diminishing in terms of its role in international affairs or even in the provision of internal security. It is like the Macca situation, the military aid to civil authority internally, where it is the responsibility of the Sierra Leone police to provide for internal security. If they think that their assets, their resources could be depicted in the quest for them to handle that situation, they could call for external support. Like this time, they will reach out to their counterpart, the military, to provide additional support. So in this case, because we've done everything to keep the population peaceful, to provide the much needed environment where people could do their business, we have still seen that the efforts are becoming unending. And therefore, in order to ensure that you reassure the population, you have to ensure that you put additional measures in place so that you are not taken by surprise. Don't forget, before August 8, 9, and 10, or even after August 8 and 9 and 10, the allegations were you heard about all of this, but still this happened. What we are saying is that we are a country governed by the rule of law. We recognized all of the rights because they are enshrined in the Constitution and in other statutory instruments. But to all of the rights, there are corresponding responsibilities. People have to make conscious efforts, not only to concentrate on the rights, but to also follow due process in terms of actually also paying attention to their responsibility. Because if you are not doing so, it will mean that you will also be jeopardizing the rights of other people. So whilst you'll be asking for the recognition or the enjoyment of your own rights, you are also trampling upon the rights of other people. And most often, it's the majority people that you'll be obstructing. And let us also make the point clear that as a country, we are also a troop contribution nation. We have our officers all over the world deployed in other missions, whether it's for stabilization or even to provide armed support to countries that are in conflict or to countries that are in peace, respectively. We have military officers that are being deployed abroad. So if those countries that are peaceful have our officers in there supporting peace stabilization effort, I don't see anything that is wrong in us having an additional troop from within the ECOWAS region to come and support the people of Sierra Leone through the security sector.
Will, again, there has been a lot of concerns with regards the terms of reference of this deployment too, as you've already highlighted. It's not new across the African continents. But again, the concern has been, is it as a result of trust issues amongst the armed force? Is there a reason why perhaps we might be seen same in country?
Straightforward answer, no. There is no trust issue. It's about supporting what the military is doing, what the police is doing, what the security sector is doing. The mandate of this mission is to support, provide a complementary role to the already existing functions. They will not be usurping the functions of any of the institutions. Within the deployment, within the team of personnel that will come in, we'll have military officers and formed police units. So it will be a kind of a mutual exchange of ideas, mutual exchange of opportunities, whether it is training, whether it's equipment, and anything that has to do with the security of Sierra Leone. So it will not diminish the role, it will not usurp the functions. What we do will continue to exist. In fact, they will only add up to what we are doing. So that should allay the fears of even people within the security sector institutions. Because no matter what you have, you will not have monopoly over that which you have. Whether it is knowledge, whether it's equipment, whether it is your level of education, you will not have monopoly. So they say the more the merrier. What will be coming to deploy in Sierra Leone could best be described as preventive diplomacy. Just that those people who think that because they have made some attempts to cause mayhem and they think they will still be able to continue with that push and succeed, to say no, it's not business as usual. In addition to what we've been doing in foiling all of the planned attacks in terms of even to subvert the state or even the foiled coup d'etats, we'll be having additional support so that we prevent that completely and entirely.
Abdul Karim, what is Sierra Leone's current security level categorization?
So security level classifications in Sierra Leone by our national security description is divided into 3 parts. We have levels 1, 2, and 3. By level 1, there is normalcy in the security of the country. By normalcy, it does not mean we are not going to have undercurrents. Normalcy would mean people continue to do their normal daily chores. People who have to come to work will go to do their work. Markets continue to operate unhindered. Children go to school. We come to studios and do what we are doing. And all of that. Governance is on course and so many other things. The challenges that you may encounter are ones that are generic. They happen all over the place, all over the world, including even first world countries. You are going to have challenges. You are going to have dissenting views and that kind of a thing. At level 2, it means there is a growing threat to the security of the country. At this level now, you now begin to maintain a kind of alertness in terms of your posture, just to ensure that that threat, which has actually either actually manifested itself or it's becoming a potential threat to security, is being provided for. During the period for either Ebola or Corona, we had a level 2 situation where this was evoked. It was a health emergency to fight and eradicate those kinds of things. At level 3, it means there is total breakdown of law and order. That was the state we were during the country's war, civil period. And so for the past couple of years or decades, if you like, we have been switching between levels 1 and level 2. We have not degenerated onto level 3. So we can say safely that we are at level 1. Because even though we have all of those undercurrents, like I've mentioned, we still have not degenerated to a situation where we have an existential threat or potential threat to the safety and security of the citizens.
Abdul, we've had a lot of messages on our Facebook page. We'll just take a few and then we'll respond and we'll wrap up the segments. From Albert Lansana, it says, from a security point of view, when there are threats against the nation or particular region, us as security experts beef up our security or allocate our security, all about situational awareness and beefing up security because of security threats.
And I'll read from Mohammed El Jallo. He says, good morning, AYV. Please, we the citizens need some clarification. 1, where will these ECOWAS standby force be positioned? And 2, what will be the specific role of these standby force within the security setup in Sierra Leone?
Abbas Habib Koka is asking, well, let me ask you the question. If there was an ECOMOG troop in all these successful coups plotted in sub-regions, do you really think they will succeed? The only reason why the coup didn't succeed in Sierra Leone, it's because the coup was plotted by the military. Only a serving military man can successfully plan and accomplish coup plots, not Koita and a PC supporter.
Yeah,
those are the messages.
So I agree that the coming of ECOWAS is to beef up existing security. Where will they be positioned? They will be coming to Sierra Leone, but specifically they will be in Freetown, Lunge, and several other parts of the region. In some places they will be in Mufti. In some other places they will be in uniform. So it's a deployment for the whole of Sierra Leone, or a specific pinpoint on certain areas of the country. Specific roles, we've stated that they have a generic function. You'll be performing the same roles that we are performing, supporting us in performing our functions. But generally, their mandate is to provide support so that they strengthen law and order, peace and security, so that they assure and double assure the existence of development or sustainable development to be maintained, development efforts to be maintained unhindered.
Thank you so very much, Will, and it's a pleasure having you in our program this morning.
Thank you.
We do appreciate you coming here because I think this is very much essential that the public know what's up with regard to security.
Thank you. One more last comment I want to make.
Feel free.
That the public should know that the same set of people, mostly Sierra Leoneans who are abroad, have started all over again, this time with renewed vigor, making calls on unsuspecting members of the public to go into demonstrations. Let the public know that nobody has approached neither the police or any member of the security sector institutions to request for those kinds of demonstrations. So any attempt of that nature will be considered illegal. And the law, by the reason for our existence, is to ensure that a law and order prevails. We will not sit idly by and allow people to usurp that. They are using the same set of messages, the same pattern in tricking people that we are going on this day to do X, Y, and Z. Those calls are not protected by law. If you make calls for demonstrations and you list them with violent threat, send panic waves onto members of the public, you are no longer calling for demonstrations, you are calling for riots, and the law will not protect that one.
Okay. Thank you again, Abdul Karim. He's the Director of Strategic Communications at the Office of National Security. Similarly, so we invited the ACP, Brahma Kamara, from the Silent Police, but unfortunately he wasn't present in the studios.